The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another edition of Belly Up After Dark. You might be looking at me right now, and of course, you'll see the other guys here on screen very soon and wonder why I've got a suit jacket on and a nice shirt. We were going to do ties as well, but since I moved, apparently I never found where my ties were, and I never put them in the right place. But tonight is a nice and professional version of Belly Up After Dark, so make sure to suit up and join us. Grab your drink, whatever you want to do, and kick back, relax. Let's talk a little bit of sports. Let's just have a good time. This is Belly Up After Dark. My name is Josh Mahler, your host, also the host of Rising to the Occasion here on the Belly Up Sports Network. We're very excited to have you in for the ride. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my co-hosts for this fine evening and for this very professional evening. We've got the dapper man himself, my right-hand man. We've got Jared Clem. Jared, how are we doing this great evening?
Ladies and gentlemen, cheers. I'm looking like an Italian nightclub owner right now with how untucked everything is. But that being said, this is what happens when I have 22 minutes to change, eat, and also pour a drink for the show. And also slick my hair back or whatever's left of it. I got to get it. I'm actually finally going to a dermatologist on Monday, boys. We're finally getting it fixed.
Heck yeah, I love it. And then we've also got the man from insert name FC, Hector. How are we doing, man?
Dapper. We're doing dapper. I look like I'm about to sell you some BMWs.
Yeah.
Also
yeah.
got the World Series ring, so I'm definitely gonna make some sales today.
I was gonna go for maybe an Audi or a Lexus. Is that cool too?
I mean, it's you still got to pay a lot for the parts, so I mean it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, right. I'll buy the Lexus because it's just Toyota parts.
Pretty much. And then we've also got my other right-hand man, my usual right-hand man, the co-host of my very own show, Rising to the Occasion. Jeremy, how we doing on this dapper evening?
Doing pretty good. And if we didn't get copyrights, I would be blasting a song. Everyone probably already knows what it was, but so we don't get copyrighted. Long as I've got my suit and tie. Wait, I don't have a tie. So good enough. But I'm doing pretty good. Then had a long day. Turned halfway to 50 today. Turned 25 today. Then everyone's been blowing me up. It's crazy to think how many people.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yeah, we got this man in on his birthday. He decided to take his birthday evening to dress up, look nice, and get on the air and do some live. I guess I was going to say television, but it's not really on television unless you're watching it on your television. I guess you could do that. But we want to hear from you guys too. Make sure to throw it down in the comments. Let us know some other themes that we can do for Belly Up After Dark. We want to do some fun themes. Obviously, it's totally satirical, but we have fun, and we're going to make sure that we have fun doing it. So throw some themes out in the comments down below. We'd love to hear your ideas. You can always donate to the channel if you're watching on YouTube. And you can also join and become a member of Belly Up Sports on the YouTube channel as well by clicking that link down below and get yourself some exclusive content. Once we get enough members, we are going to be starting to release a lot more exclusive content on the Belly Up page. So make sure to do that if you would like to be a member and help support Belly Up Sports and help us with some of these fun things like this and Belly Up After Dark. We were just talking, man, like some of us need to get some new suits and everything. So if we're going to be dappering it up on Belly Up After Dark, we may need you to drop a donation or something down there in the chat. But let's go ahead and get into it. Let's get to Belly Up After Dark, boys. First, kind of going over here, we're going to start off with the NFL. This is something that even in the offseason, all of us love to discuss the NFL and pretty much everything about it. There's a lot going on still in the offseason when we think about it because, first off, we've got the draft coming. And with the draft, we also have a very important piece of that draft, that number one spot, that number one pick that everyone desires because that number one pick means that you can get whoever you want, the most desirable person, the most desirable player, regardless of the position. Most of the time goes to a quarterback because he's the most important player on the field. But there's the number one pick this year is for the Chicago Bears. Guys, I wanted to kind of pick your brain because it seems that there's some drama going on with the Bears and Justin Fields that most likely they're going to part ways with him. They may not think that he is the franchise QB. First of all, I guess if that is the case, which apparently he even unfollowed the Bears on, I think it was Instagram or something like that on social media. So that's one thing. But if you were the Bears, would you trade him? And then outside of that, who should chase after Fields? Let's start off with you, Hector.
I mean, if there's one team that I definitely think about that definitely needs a quarterback that can instantly upgrade that position, is that the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh yeah.
I think we got an idea of what Desmond Ritter is. And I think Justin Fields brings a different caliber, a different skill set that I think could open a lot of things up, especially if they run the ball like they should. It should open up a lot. I think I think that's a really good place for him. I think it would be a good fit. Obviously, he has his ties to Georgia as well, so I think Atlanta would be an ideal location for him.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I like that too because, yeah, like you mentioned it, they need a quarterback. He's got some ties down there to the state, and just the pure fact. I mean, personally, I'll throw my opinion out there about him. I like him. I think he is a good quarterback. I think he could be better, and with the right coaching, with the right players around him, obviously, I think he could excel. But Jared, what do you think about the situation there with Justin Fields, the Bears? Where do you think he should land up?
Well, my favorite thing about all this was when he went on the St. Brown's podcast and he was basically like, I just want them to make a damn decision. Well, here's the thing. Like, the Bears have basically been holding him hostage since about probably December. And the problem is they failed Justin Fields. I'm not saying he's even a franchise quarterback or even a serviceable quarterback. We don't know because they're so bad. Here's the thing. He goes to Pittsburgh, you're going to get the same thing. Artie Smith is the worst offensive coordinator in football. He goes to Atlanta, might work. Go somewhere else, might work. We don't know. But I think the Bears, they're not fooling anybody. At this point, they need to take the leap. They need to say, we're going to take a quarterback. Let's deal Fields. I understand why they're holding off because they want all of the suspense, right? They want to see what they can get for him. If they can get a second, third round pick with it, maybe some futures, hell yeah, why not? So I think the biggest thing is nobody in their right mind thinks they're going to keep Fields. I was a proponent of it because I think the Bears owe it to Fields, but they won't. They won't do it. So at this point, I think the best thing for them to do is just say, hey, fuck it. We fucked up. We screwed up. Let's just deal him. Let's see if this Caleb kid who paints his nails, cries to his mom, and can't beat any team that is above 500 win. So there you go. Also, by the way, I'm a Caleb Williams, not hater, but I'm a doubter. That makes sense. So on tape, he doesn't make me confident as a quarterback evaluator. So
yeah, I think this last season you definitely saw a lot more of that with him. It was just kind of crumbling in key moments, and that's, I mean, not entirely his fault. So maybe we're wrong on that. But yeah, I'm not bought in on the Caleb Williams being the greatest thing since sliced bread kind of talk. You know, like he's got so much hype around him that, man, it's kind of scary. And obviously, I think if they get rid of Justin Fields, they're going somewhere. Whether they get Caleb Williams or whether they get, maybe they go after Drake May or Jaden Daniels, who's been moving up in the charts. But Jeremy, how about you, man? Where do you think Justin Fields should land up or should end up, and if he were to get traded?
I mean, reasonably, I do agree with Atlanta. Just like obviously everyone said, he has ties with Atlanta and Georgia, but that just seems like to me it'll be the strong suit for his mobility and what he does have of talent. I mean, take it for granted, Justin Fields knows how to use his legs, but once you get that kind of a quarterback that is scrambling around a lot, you already know there's probably going to be some kind of problem running towards you, whether it be a D lineman coming up at you or even a middle linebacker, you thinking that they're going to be dropping back in the blitz, but they really come up and press you. But I want your opinion on this, guys. I mean, I know I wouldn't expect this to see something, but do you think if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back with the Jets, do you think there could potentially be anything for him to even stick his nose up into the Big Apple in New York just because of what they already have for quarterback trouble? We've obviously seen them this year. It's just been a grade A shit show. And I kind of want your guys' opinion on this. Do you think there could be a possibility that he can maybe land up in Jets country?
I mean, I think there's always a possibility, but I don't see the fit. I just don't
I
think
also
it
with
fits the.
Rogers.
I don't think that offense works for him personally.
Yeah,
Hey, I'm just throwing it out there. I just want
Yeah.
to see what
All right,
everyone
listen, I like the hypotheticalism on this, but like I think really realistically, this isn't a Favre situation. Like Rogers was robbed by the AstroTurf or whatever the hell you call that shit show of surface at MetLife.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the giant recycling bin in the center of the Meadowlands. That being said, I'm a very big disproponent. Like I watched AJ Brown season end because of that shitbox turf. Anyway, um, my biggest issue with this is with Fields. I think he's the fourth domino to fall, and the problem is he won't be because he's not the best. He's the what? The fourth best quarterback on the market, fifth best if you really want to go down the list because you got Russ, you got uh,
Kirk.
Cousins, Kurt. Yeah, I was gonna say who's the other? There's the two other ones I thought were a little Tannehill, and there's one more I put above him, and then it's Fields. So the problem is he's the fifth or fourth best quarterback in this free agent class, one of the best free agent classes of quarterbacks we've had in a while. But he's going to be the one that gets moved first unless they wait till draft day, which to me is just not fair for Fields. But of course, this is the Bears and they just love screwing over star players. So I don't know. I think right now with this, we all know they're going to take Caleb first overall. It's been foretold for the last 2 years. This is the early reminder of Lawrence in 2021 or Luck in 2011 or 12, where you knew who was going first overall a year and a half in advance.
Yeah. I mean,
I think Williams is the third best quarterback in this class, but nobody will ever listen to me about it.
yeah, I'm trying to think of all the other quarterbacks out there because you mentioned Cousins. There's Baker on the market. I know I'm biased, but I would rather.
Count him going back. I think he's re-signed with Tampa.
Yeah, I do too. I think he will. But there's still that possibility that he doesn't. Which I mean, that's There's
I mean, if he's a free agent, so I mean, any team can go after Baker Mayfield. If there's a team that feels that Baker Mayfield has done enough to give him that contract, I mean, I'm sure he'll definitely take his options. But I think right now he's the best fit for Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, I think he is. I mean, I feel like he's happier down there. The team rallies around him a lot better. He seems like the mature Baker that the NFL wanted him to be when he first came into the league. But you don't try to mature somebody by sending him to Cleveland as the number one overall pick. And yeah, that's not the right move.
Baker Mayfield is honestly what Johnny Manziel was supposed to be.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, it's just him being down there in Tampa. I think that's a good one. Which we're going to get to free agents too, so we'll probably talk more about just overall in Tampa because there's some more free agents that they've got down there. But Jared, I know you kind of already mentioned it. Caleb Williams, number one overall pick. I think that's just kind of the obvious one that everyone's kind of shoving out there. But there's also been several years, backing up to I can remember whenever Baker Mayfield was in the draft. What was that, 2016? So I mean,
No, Baker was 18.
No, I think
with Sam Darnold.
Yeah,
it was Sam Darnold, Lamar Jackson,
yeah, it would
Josh
have been
Allen.
18. Yeah, you're right. It would have been 18 because I was already living in Ohio at the time. So 2018. But I can remember back then, Sam Darnold was kind of the guy that everyone expected to go number one. I think there was even a couple of other guys that were kind of in contention. And Baker was kind of like that third or fourth kind of afterthought of he might be able to go number one. And then all of a sudden there was a surprise where Baker is now your number one overall pick, which seemed like the better pick whenever you look back and see who went where. And I think Josh Allen would have been another one. That was what I was trying to think of. But do you guys see there being a surprise where Caleb Williams isn't the number one overall pick?
I don't. It's hard. It's hard because the thing is like what other quarterback in this draft class would you put over Caleb Williams? And I mean this is somebody that has watched Caleb Williams over at USC. I really liked what he was doing at USC. I think for college football, he's phenomenal. And my concern with Caleb Williams is we saw what happens when he goes up against a very physical football team. We saw it with Notre Dame. Notre Dame played very physical against them. We saw it against Utah. Utah right now, I guess RIP to the Pac-12, but was the most physical team in the Pac-12. He had no answer in Washington, and I mean, once again, when it came time to play that gritty physical football, and I think it's also unfortunately also kind of comes in with Lincoln Riley as well. He once it's time to get goes up against a physical opponent, Lincoln Riley also kind of falls apart, which I think is kind of his fault because he doesn't put so much emphasis on defense. So we'll see what happens this year because apparently they're doing so much work on defense at USC this year.
Yeah,
But
and they're going to need to when they go into the Big Ten. That's defensive country. You're starting to get into like those big hard nosed defensive lines, and they've got big boys on the offensive line. You're not going to be able to speed your way through there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And I think, but for Caleb Williams right now, the thing is that there's question marks behind his game.
Mm-hmm.
We know he can make big time plays, but also it's a lot of stuff that involves him running out of the pocket. Not necessarily able to stay in the pocket and make those throws and follow with the progression. We don't really see many of those film on him. It's more so him getting out of the pocket and just his wide receivers being able to understand how Caleb plays. And I don't think that necessarily translates in the NFL. And I honestly I draw a blank on the NFL analyst for ESPN that hasn't been wrong on some of his projections. He said Johnny Manziel
Mr. Merrill Hodge.
Yeah, Mr. Merrill Hodge. He said CJ Stroud was him. And I mean, so like he's not wrong. And I mean, even he isn't 100% on Caleb Williams. With that being said, though, I don't think that there's any other quarterback in this draft class that you would give that number one pick rating besides Caleb Williams. And even as someone that likes Caleb Williams, that loves watching him play, every Saturday, I just don't think he translates well to the NFL. I think that there's better options in that number one pick. And I think if you're the Bears, you're in a promising position where you can trade that pick away. You don't have to get Caleb Williams. You don't have to go get him. And I mean, if you trade back, get yourself either a Michael Penix, get yourself a Jaden Daniels. You'll get those guys in later on in the draft. But Caleb Williams, there's going to be a team that's going to be willing to go all out for him.
Yeah, you brought up the guy that, I mean, my number one quarterback in the entire draft. If I have to pick somebody, Michael Penix Jr. is my guy. I'm making sure he has a good line like he did over there at Washington because that's what worked for him. He's extremely smart when to get rid of the ball. The only time you saw him really get banged up since being at Washington was in that national championship game when he just had no choice other than to lower the shoulder and fight for every little yard he could because he knew he wasn't going to win if he didn't. And even at that wasn't quite enough. But Michael Penix, my favorite quarterback of the draft. So I'm right there with you. I think if you're the Bears, you can totally hold off and wait for a guy like him. Jaden Daniels, I don't see it out of him. I really don't. And then Drake May, I think that's another guy that comes up into the discussion. And apparently a lot of scouts are starting to really like what they see out of Spencer Rattler. I don't know how, because his last few years at South Carolina and even backing up to what how he got kind of closed out there in Oklahoma, I don't see it from him yet. But maybe he's shown a lot of improvement in even showing some extra things too in this offseason.
When it comes to Spencer Rattler, even when he was on QB1, I didn't see it. I didn't see the allure of this kid. This was like a top quarterback prospect when he was on that documentary series, and I just didn't see it. He's cocky. He's there. I'm sure that he's matured, because obviously we're talking about a senior in high school.
And he definitely has.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, he had to humble himself, right? He lost his job to Caleb Williams over in Oklahoma, and then goes to South Carolina. This kid was projected to be a first-round pick, when he was going into that season until he lost his job to Caleb Williams.
Yeah, he had the hype that Caleb Williams has now. That's kind of the crazy thing with Spencer. And then that just all plummeted, because whenever he came into Oklahoma, and I will say, I see the talent. I still do. He's extremely talented. He has some of the quickest footwork. He's extremely precise and accurate with the ball. He's got a cannon for an arm. He can sling the rock. And so there's so much talent there. It's just the football IQ just doesn't seem like it's ever sped up. It doesn't feel like it's ever caught up to where he's at in his game. And so that's kind of the thing with Spencer that I think a lot of people are probably seeing. But I mean, Jeremy, Jared, do you guys see any other possibilities at number one that could overthrow Caleb Williams, even with all the hype that he's got?
As an ACC boy, I have a little bias here, but I watched Drake May torture me for 4 years, man. He is 3 years because I had to watch that lunatic Sam Howell for 1 year. But as a Hurricanes fan, I had to watch Drake May torture us 3 times. And his biggest problem is he played in North Carolina. That's it. Because if he was at USC or at Oklahoma or LSU or Ohio State, we wouldn't have any of these problems. The problem is his best receiver besides Josh Downs was Quantez Walker, who has a drop problem. My favorite part about Drake May is that he has no fear. This dude will sling the rock into triple coverage and he'll hit the throw, and it's incredible to watch. I think his biggest problem, and I notice this a lot, is he is one of those quarterbacks when you rush him up the middle, he loses it. He's running for his life, and where guys we saw coming out in the past, like as far back as like a Russell Wilson or a Jalen Hurts or even like Andrew Luck, or you can throw in Dak, who have the ability to redirect their eyeballs and look downfield and throw the football. One thing I noticed was my Miami Hurricanes game, Leonard Taylor was in this guy's grill every play, and it wasn't until Miami pulled the dogs off for some godforsaken reason that May was able to start getting the ball downfield to Walker, and that's when he started shredding him. So I think he's one of those guys who's going to need a little time to develop. But then again, this is one of those classes where there's no clear-cut day one starter who's going to be dominating, where I think Williams has a thing he needs to improve on. Daniels has things he needs to improve on. Penix has things he needs to improve on. May, J.J. McCarthy has a laundry list. Bo Nix might be applying for AARP. Like, there is a lot of different quarterbacks in this class, but none of them are the clear-cut number one, have everything figured out. Caleb Williams just has the highest ceiling to scouts. Everyone thinks he's the next Patrick Mahomes with more speed.
Yeah,
but
and I hate that comparison personally because they're just I mean, they've got similar attributes, but they just do it in such a different way that I just don't see the comparison.
Mahomes just has Patrick Mahomes actually has pocket presence. Caleb Williams does not.
Yeah, true. But I mean, Jeremy, is there anybody that you kind of see as taking over that number one spot?
No, I mean, he said it the best. You look at each of these quarterbacks that are going into the draft, and Caleb Williams he has the highest ceiling out of the bunch. And I mean, I don't personally think Caleb Williams, in my opinion, is the number one kind of guy in the draft in general. But there's a reason, like I always tell you guys, why I sit in my chair and just watch the draft instead of being in that booth and being involved in the draft. But you look at other quarterbacks, like obviously Jaden Daniels, he was good with LSU, or even like Drake May, for what you guys are talking about. To me, it seems like when Drake May gets when he gets pressure, it just goes the wrong way for him. And it seemed like 50% of the time when he would get that pressure along, it would just go to the wrong team, or the other 25% he would make an actual good read and good play, or the other 25% of me is just thinking you should just throw it away. But reality, he's not going to throw it away. He's probably going to do something stupid. But looking at it, there's a lot of people that could be going number one. But Caleb Williams, like I say, he has the highest ceiling in the room. So I don't really have much more to say about it.
I personally just feel like it's just the hype around him. It's not entirely because if you took him his freshman year and you were making this big deal about him his freshman year, or even going back to his Heisman winning year, I think I could be right there, right alongside with you and say, yeah, he's the clear-cut number one. But this last season, you saw some flaws. You saw some things that you can find improvement on now. It wasn't just this guy that was flawless and just found a way to chuck it downfield and find the perfect guy, run around and find open space on the field. You didn't see the same Caleb Williams this past season. And so that's the only reason why I just feel like maybe there's just a weird part of me that's doubting whether he's actually good enough to keep himself there at that number one spot, and if he's actually going to be a franchise quarterback sooner rather than later. So it's one of those things too where you've got to try to read the future, and nobody's able nobody's able to do that. So it's tough to look at this guy and try to figure out exactly who could steal that top spot. But Jerry, you brought up Bo Nix. I don't know why I was drawing a blank on him. Another big quarterback that I would prefer higher on the list of quarterbacks in this draft. But
I'm not sold on Bo. That's my problem.
It's his age.
his
It's
efficiency.
not just his age. Mechanics wise, the way he reads the defense, it's something. Is there's with quarterbacks, it's one of the few positions that I actually kind of like tout myself as okay. I don't usually miss on quarterbacks. I love Penix. I love Daniels. I love May. I'm okay on JJ McCarthy. I think he needs a lot of help. Williams is a anomaly to me. I don't understand how to rate him because he's never actually doing what he's supposed to do. With Bo Nix, he's a faster Ryan Tannehill to me. That is his ceiling. He is a faster, older Tannehill. That is what I see in him. And that's fine. That's his ceiling. Congratulations. But when I watch him, I'm like, he should be hitting this read, but he throws it to another play because he's at Oregon and they have 3 5-star receivers against a bunch of guys who look like me and Josh covering them. So this is where I draw the issue. Now, Pac-12, this is the first year where they actually had elite defenses in the Pac-12, is ironically their final year because it's been the Pacific 12 passing league for the past decade. But that all being said, I look at Bo Nix and he was the third best quarterback in his conference. That's my problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is like I don't see him winning the games. I see his dominant skill position players. I see his defense. And I'm like, oh, there's Drake May, third cookie on this wheel. And I'm
See,
just like, okay.
I kind of disagree with you. For one, I think he makes excellent reads. That's why he only threw like 2 interceptions the entire regular season, something like that. And so I think he's extremely efficient. And on top of that, like there was several games where he was the one that put the team on his back and said, no, we're going to go down and score. He got very close. It was really just him, and he had an amazing last couple of drives against Washington in that Pac-12 game that really brought Oregon back and got them to the point where they could do this thing, and they just couldn't quite succeed. And I think they only really lost to Washington. Personally, I think they only lost because of just poor decision-making by Dan Lanning. If your name is Dan, then you just love to go for it on fourth.
Now, listen, I am a huge Dan Lanning fan. So
I love
that's
him.
A whole
Yeah, I love
different game. But, like, let me put it this way. My issues with Knicks, yes, Hector hitting the age bothers me. It is a big-ass red flag swinging behind me like a Boomer Sooner game, right? But at the same time, Josh, when I say he misses reads, I see a guy streaking down the field that is going to be a 20, 30-yard gain where he hits a check down. Now, it looks right from the standpoint of watching the game on film, but then you see it all 22, you're like, okay, he could have easily hit this throw, and instead of it being 3rd and 3, it could be 1st and 10 at the 5.
You might be right. I mean, I haven't watched film on him.
That may be the opportunist in me looking for what's the most optimal read when I'm watching a quarterback. But then again, I only look for from the fact is you should be able to hit the maximum effort on every play, but sometimes that play doesn't work out. So maybe I'm a little too skeptical on this. So I think I'm leaning towards more what you were saying, but my issue with him is sometimes he opts for the check down before taking a shot. And in the NFL, unless you're running in the Tua Tagovailoa Miami offense, check downs don't get you touchdowns.
Yeah, well, and honestly, to the point of age, I think I like the guys that are older rather than the younger guys because you have a guy that is more mature and you don't have to kind of work that out of him. Instead, you've got a guy that's hungry. He recognizes where he's at. He recognizes that his opportunity is now or never. And so I personally, I look at the age the other way when you're in the NFL because you still got a good at least 10 years in you.
I think with Bo Nix, though, the positive that I will say from him is that through the years you have seen a progression from him.
Absolutely.
You've seen him improve his game, and yes, his age is a red flag because that you're talking about that 5-year contract, that option year. You know, where is he at amongst his other draft classmates? And I mean, once again, if he proves to be good, it's all throw everything out of the way because matters is that he's performing well. I think personally though, Bo Nix is one of those guys that he can't be an early draft pick. And the reason why I say that is that, when you're talking about a lot of the teams that are going to be drafting early, they are not in ideal situations, and I don't think Bo Nix can fit in those situations because you can see what happened when when he left Auburn and went to Oregon. It was night and day of what we saw from Bo Nix. So I think that he benefits from going into either later in the first round or going into those later rounds, goes into an ideal situation. Maybe it's not the starter right away, but comes when he comes in and proves his value. Maybe a New York Giants, maybe he can, you know. I know we all love Tommy DeVito and Tommy Cutlets. We all love him, but I think that Bo Nix maybe can prove himself over there in New York.
Yeah. I mean, I do think any quarterback when you're coming fresh into the NFL, because it is such a faster paced game. There is such a narrow talent gap whenever you get to the NFL. Any quarterback, especially quarterback, I think when you're a wide receiver or maybe even an offensive lineman, or there's a ton of positions where I think you can be a rookie coming into the NFL and be a starter year one and take over. But the quarterback is such a tough one to come into and just take over because of the importance of the position. So yeah, I'm right there with you. But guys, let's jump over to free agents on the market. So I want to talk about some free agents. I want you guys to I want to go around the horn and get your guys' top free agents on the market right now and where you'd like to see them go. But before we do, I have to first mention a sponsor for this evening, and that is SeatGeek. Because just like we were talking about Justin Fields and wondering where his seat is going to be, you may also be wondering where your seat will be in your next event, whether you're a fan of sports or music or theater, comedy. Maybe you just need a parking pass to an event that you're going to. Whatever the case may be, you know how challenging it can be to find the right tickets at the right price and finding the right place to do it. That's where SeatGeek comes into play, because with a seamless mobile experience, SeatGeek allows you to buy and sell tickets in just 2 taps. It doesn't get any simpler than that, guys. And so not only that, but it does get better because SeatGeek also grades every ticket from red to green based on their value to help you immediately identify the best seats that fit your budget. Plus, every purchase is fully guaranteed, so you can shop securely, and you can also shop with a complete peace of mind, knowing that your information is not going to be in danger, and that also that your tickets are going to scan when you go to the front door. You're not going to sit there and try to scan them and find out that they were fake tickets. We love SeatGeek so much here at Belly Up Sports that we have partnered up with them to get you guys an amazing deal. You can go over to SeatGeek.com or download the SeatGeek app and use that code BellyUpSports for $20 off your next ticket purchase to any event. So go over there. Don't wait any longer. If you're looking for seats, if you're looking for tickets to any kind of event, search for it on SeatGeek by going to SeatGeek.com or download the SeatGeek app and use that code BellyUpSports and get yourself $20 off. An amazing deal, the best place to get your tickets, SeatGeek. But guys, let's get back into the action. Like I said, I want to go around and kind of get your guys' thoughts, top free agents, and where you'd like to see them land up, or where you would like to see them end up. I keep on saying land up, kind of throwing end up and land in the same. But Jeremy, you've been kind of quiet, so I'm going to start it off with you, man.
My big one, I know it would never happen in a million years. The number one free agent in my mind is Chris Jones. Now, I know, obviously, Chris Jones has done so much wonders for the Kansas City Chiefs. Even though I'm a Bengals fan, I hate saying it just because whenever we play them, we always usually hear his name a time or two. But, I mean, if Chris Jones doesn't stay with Kansas City, even though I think he's going to stay with Kansas City, I would love to see him in some black and orange or some white and orange just because Cincinnati's defense, we have a decent front four, but our defense we rely too much on our edge rushers. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. It's that too late of the night, everybody. But I mean, you
Henderson
look
and
at yeah, and
is it
Sam
Henderson and
Henderson, Trey Hendrickson. There we go.
yeah.
But I mean, or even anything just to try and help out our defensive line. Just because once we get both of those guys out, if not one or the other, you can tell our defense definitely lacks a little bit, especially on the edge. And don't get me wrong, our front two, outside of the two outsides, they can put up pressure, but a lot of those times our defense just really relies on our outside edge and even looking into something in our our middle backs. I mean, we definitely need something to. We definitely need a lot of help on defense, to say the least. But I would love to see Chris Jones and Snow White in a Bengals jersey.
So now that Jeremy's done being delusional and wishing on something to happen that would never happen, Hector, how about you, man? No, I would love to see Chris Jones go there. It would be perfect for Cincinnati. I just don't see him making the jump over there. But Hector,
A moment, okay?
I don't think he was featured on any of the top lists, but and it's been a rumor that's been really heavily going on in the Texans community, and that is getting Saquon Barkley to Houston. I think the running back position is definitely something that needs to be clearly upgraded. No offense to Devin Singletary, because that dude was a dog, and I loved every minute when he was on the field. Dameon Pierce, I don't know what happened with him. He took a massive dip this past season. Hopefully he can bounce back. But you're talking about if Saquon Barkley gets added to that Texans offense, I think it's a very comparable impact as when the San Francisco 49ers went after Christian McCaffrey. So I think that if the Texans were to do anything this offseason, adding someone like Saquon Barkley would be probably that instant upgrade where the Texans are already a scary team with the way CJ Stroud, a healthy Tank Dell, Nico Collins. Maybe some people would be saying go after a number one receiver, but I think I think Saquon Barkley in that Baltimore Ravens game could have changed a lot of things and how that game ended out.
Oh, yeah.
So I personally, for me, biased. He wasn't featured on any other list, but I would definitely say Saquon Barkley to the Houston Texans.
No, everyone's a fan of somebody, or everyone is maybe an enemy to somebody. So you don't like somebody. So I mean, you've got to cheer for your team. I love that too. I saw the same rumors kind of going around. There's another one. So I think Tony Pollard. I don't remember where I saw him kind of projected to leave to, but Tony Pollard leaving, and then also you've got Josh Jacobs out there on the market too. This is a really big year for running backs. So
and
I feel
will
like
say, if there's a team that needs to win now, and I don't think Texans are necessarily in that conversation because there's still that window with CJ Stroud.
Mm-hmm.
King Henry's available.
Yeah, true.
King
Yeah,
Henry's
there's
available.
another big back.
And that's a win now guy, because if you're Derrick Henry, and I don't think there's any way Derrick Henry should be looking for the best possible contract possible for him. He needs to go to a place where he's going to win a Super Bowl.
Philly. I mean, just throwing it out there. I've seen the rumors.
Evan Swift is as a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, there's been rumors, and
he needs
I
to win now.
absolutely.
He needs to win now. There's no way if you're Derrick Henry, you have to go somewhere where
Listen,
you're going
he's
to win
boys
now.
with AJ Brown.
Well, and Philly, I think Philly made the right moves because all this BS about trying to fire Sirianni. I didn't like that. I didn't like that move at all because it wasn't Sirianni. Obviously, Sirianni got them to the Super Bowl the year before and almost won it. He was just inches away from winning a Super Bowl, and you want to blame him when you think about what was going wrong with their team. It was the defensive coordinator. That was absolutely the biggest one. Offensive coordinator. And guess what? Those are two new positions on. I hated that. So yeah, I mean, I think Philly is right there. I think they're still in contention. And so I think
the window's still open for Philly. The window is still very much open.
I love that everyone's slamming this shut. It's my favorite story this offseason. Everyone's slamming Philly's window shut. Like, I love it. It's my favorite story.
I was right there with you, man. Like, Sirianni was not the problem. I do want to jump down to the chat. I see DJ jumped in the chat. He says, "Is that drunk Dan Campbell in the top right?"
Listen, man, we're biting kneecaps. I don't care if I'll fight you with half an ass cheek and one eyeball. I don't give a fuck.
No, I love it. And then he also said, I do like this comment. He says, in my opinion, Bo Nix would be perfect in Denver with the Sean Payton offense. I do like that.
Yeah.
9-8, here we come.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a 9-win team when you put him there. No,
Courtland Sutton's going to get a lot of TDs.
No, I do like Denver. And I don't know. There's parts. It's hard for me to like Denver right now.
Who's the check down? The check down option for Denver right now, though.
Well, and honestly,
that's it.
I mean, if you don't put some IJP run in the game more, you're just going to keep on losing. But I will say I think.
Third best team in football at best.
P-Ryan went from my most valuable person in fantasy football, then went to Denver and just did nothing for me.
Yeah, dude,
like
I mean-
I didn't. I dropped him immediately, but I was like, oh look, P Ryan, he always does me good. And it was like, no,
yeah,
not this
he's
year.
always that safety. He's a safety
Yeah,
valve.
he is.
And he was great for at least 2 years straight over there with the Bengals, and then jumping over there. Yeah, he was sitting down on plays that were kind of like, this is when you need him the most. You need him to block back in the backfield and get that chip block to keep him away from somebody away from your quarterback, and they don't put him in. But no, I mean, just looking around. I guess let's jump back to free agents. Jared, do you have any top free agents that you like on the market?
So I am also partial to the position I played in high school, but one guy I like, obviously, if we're all doing pipe dreams for our teams, I would love to see Jalen Johnson go to the Philadelphia Eagles, cornerback from the Bears. I love everything he does on tape, but the two players that stick out to me the most are edge rushers, and it's Brian Burns and Josh Allen. Both guys are game wreckers. Both guys can play multiple schemes, and both guys are going to command a serious amount of money. They both remind me of kind of how Hassan Reddick bounced around a little bit before he went to Philadelphia. Another one they kind of remind me of is when Zadarius Smith went up to Cleveland, or no, sorry, Green Bay the first time when he was in that first season. Electric edge rushers who can get after the quarterback and stop a game. We saw it in 2022 with both Nick Bosa and Hassan Reddick in the in the NFC playoff picture, where Bosa, let three out of the four best teams in the NFL, in the three of the five best pass rushers in football were in the divisional playoff of the NFC. It was Parsons, Bosa, and Reddick. All three of them had their teams in the playoffs. You know why? Because they're all game wreckers. And I think that's the biggest thing a lot of teams lack. Like, why did I think Baltimore lost to Patrick? They couldn't hit him. I don't care who you have rushing up the middle. You don't have an edge rusher who can dominate the edge. Like, the only thing that was keeping Patrick Mahomes
not just rush the edge. Yeah, not just rush the edge, but also set the edge. And that's something that was constantly going wrong for them all game long against Kansas City.
When they were setting the edge in the first half, Mahomes looked non-existent. He couldn't improvise. He couldn't run.
Yeah.
And they got fatigued later in the game. It changed. Having a smart but explosive edge rusher is the most underrated thing in football. It's okay to have one who's just straight. He's a torpedo going straight to the quarterback. That's why, like, teams like in San Francisco, right? It worked back when Bosa was able to be the smart, instinctual one where Chase Young or whoever the hell they have as a sidekick could attack. Khalil Mack and Melvin Ingram, or Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa back in the day. Then it was Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. And then you go to Philadelphia with Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick. And now with Hector's Texans at a lesser state, because one's younger and one's a little overrated, you have my dog Derek Barnett, and who should have been silver medalist in Defensive Rookie of the Year, Will Anderson. You have another duo. Listen,
boy, here we go.
Games. Don't get me started.
Willie was him.
Yeah, he is him, but the problem is he is him, had the same stats as the defensive tackle who played one less game. But that being said,
he's a rookie.
They're both rookies. Jalen Carter and Will Anderson are both rookies.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I was not picking up who you were comparing him to there.
Yeah,
okay.
I was referring to number 98, the Philadelphia Eagles, number one in their hearts, and number one hated. In Joe, who's the lineman who was complaining that he threatened his kids? I don't know. Anyway, that's just next level shit talking apparently. But that being said, I think Josh Allen and Brian Burns and Danielle Hunter are the three guys we have to watch. You have three elite edge rushers in this class, and all three of them are going to go to contenders. Well, no, I think one of them is going to go to a bottom feeder because it happens every year where somebody just signs with like hey, I'm going to go to the Denver Broncos. Why? They threw me a Brinks truck. Okay, that works. Have a nice career. But then you're going to see Josh Allen go to Houston, and then you're going to see Burns go to Philly. Okay, now they're both playing for contending teams, and they're going to wreak havoc.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, especially Josh Allen. I think he's my favorite out of the three you just mentioned. Burns is absolutely right up there. Brian Burns, right up there with him. It's tough though whenever you think of guys that are that inside man. Another guy that I'll kind of throw in. He's not a free agent, but looking at the draft, and I'm drawing a blank on his first name. Sweat from Texas.
Devontae Sweat.
Devontae Sweat.
Is it Devontae? Is that his name? Okay, yeah. Yeah, so Sweat, I mean, he's a big dude. He is NFL ready. There's no doubt in my mind that he's not NFL ready. So, personally, I'm looking at the Bengals to try to move into that position and get him. I think that would be an amazing addition for the Bengals. You were bringing up Chris Jones. You're not going to get Chris Jones, so think of something more likely. I think getting Devontae Sweat would be an amazing
it could
addition.
happen.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If you
1%.
found a lot of money hidden in the stadium somewhere that you could just throw at him, maybe if you took some away from Joe Burrow, but something tells me he likes the pocketbook that he's got right now. But looking around, so I'm going to bounce over to the Bengals. I think a player that sparks my interest a lot in the free agency, a dude that I think he is an amazing talent, is T. Higgins. T. Higgins out there on the market. I think that personally, I don't want to see him go anywhere. I think the Bengals need to secure him and keep him there because with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, that duo is very unstoppable in many ways as long as you have Joe Burrow back there. But even without Joe Burrow, you saw Jake Brown come in there and still be able to handle business with T. Higgins. And T. Higgins steps up in key moments. I think he's a phenomenal player. So, I mean, I think anyone would be lucky to grab him. And I personally, I think the Bengals just need to make sure that they can secure him. It's kind of surprised me that I've been paying attention to that move, and I haven't heard any word on him yet. And that's just kind of shocking to me that I wouldn't have heard something by now. But I definitely think he's one. And then another wide receiver would be Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans, you have to secure him. I think if you're Tampa, you have to secure Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield, and I think you have to bring both of them back because that was a huge piece. Those two together, a huge piece of that offense. And so without,
I will interject on this one, just because that is another player that I would love with the Texans, and specifically because of the fact that Texans need a number one receiver.
They do.
No offense against Nico Collins.
Definitely.
And Nico Collins stepped up big time. But I mean, if you're talking about adding a savvy veteran, which is something that the Texans definitely need in that wide receiver core. No offense to Robert Woods. I think he did a really good job last season. I know some people will say otherwise. But I think adding a guy like Mike Evans, who grew up in Galveston, Texas, which is not that far away from Houston, Texas. So he does have a lot of Houston ties. I mean, when he came to play the Texans this season, he was rocking the Astros gear and all that. Once again, but I think Mike Evans is definitely someone that definitely wants to go to a win now situation.
Is that one of the signs they stole or something?
No, they're both trash cans. So I was there. But I think with Mike Evans, he's kind of when it comes to free agents, I think this is the three things, and I think that everyone could probably agree. You're either chasing that bag, doesn't matter where you're going, as long as the bag is there. You're going for a ring. You're going to go to a place where it's going to guarantee your best chance at a ring. And the third one, I think, is play for your hometown.
Yeah, and there's certain guys, too, that what matters more, your legacy or the money? And that's something that's very difficult to decide between. But this is a point that I bring up nonstop when I talk about this, because you got teams like San Francisco, for example, who have just got a stacked roster, and they've got to find a way to keep them there. They've got to find a way to keep that roster stacked in order to win, or else they're not going to win. If they lose half that squad, they're not going to win because they're so dominant. They're in that position because of the stacked roster that they have. So what do? How did Tom Brady get to 7 rings? He took pay cuts. He did what he had to do to make sure that he got the guys that he needed to win, because he's not going to win it by himself. He's not going to win it by securing an extra $40 million. He's going to win it by getting other guys around him.
How many? And I mean, no offense, Josh, but I mean, how many athletes are out there that think like that?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I totally agree. But that's the problem.
A different breed.
Yeah.
And also, TB12 was married to a supermodel, so I mean, he didn't have to be the breadwinner.
I mean, she definitely brought in the bread for sure. But no, I agree with you. I just think if you want to leave that legacy, then there's got to be a moment where you think of that. I think Pat Mahomes is a guy that you could talk about that. Hey, this is a big decision to make. Do we want to leave a legacy on this franchise? Leave my name in the record books, whatever the case may be. How do we want to leave? Do we want to leave knowing that I got paid all this money, or do I want to go and three-peat? Whatever the case may be. I think Pat Mahomes is just an example that I bring up because he's in the GOAT discussion, and so you bring him in there. But
he's got his influx now. Like, I mean, he owns 2 soccer teams now. He owns a baseball team. I mean, he's got that Adidas money. He's got I'm sure he still has that Hunt's Ketchup money.
His wife is getting money from the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition.
Let's just ignore that part of the
no. We're not ignoring that. Come on, are you crazy?
You know what's funny is I used to be that guy.
We all knew Brittany Mahomes in high school, man. Nobody wants to look at that.
Brittany Mahomes alone, she's just trying to be. And then I saw that QB1 documentary series, and I was like, oh my god, okay, I see what everyone was saying.
So here's my thing. So you saw the 2 superstars girls. So you saw Taylor Swift, who had the spotlight when she wasn't trying to grab it, and then you had Brittany Mahomes, who nobody was even trying to give her the spotlight, and she kept on stepping into it. No, I'm right here. Listen. So that's just like,
no one cares.
This is why we don't like her.
Yeah, exactly.
Never forget the clip where she said, "What's Patrick Mahomes' favorite meal?" Fried chicken. She didn't say fried chicken. She She said fried chicken. Like,
she said it with the fakest Southern accent I'd ever seen in my life. Like that. My great grandmother from South Carolina.
The over here saying it's Mexican food.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The more I see of her and his brother, I just can't stand them. But I was going to talk a little about the NBA. I think we're going to skip that because I want to get to the NCAA. I want to talk about college football. Let's start off. It was announced. It was official now that it is going to be for the new playoff system, 12-team playoffs. It's going to be the 5+7. And for those who don't understand what this is, originally when the 12-team playoff came into fruition, it was going to be 6 and 6. So you had the 6. So you had the Power 5 champions. So you had ACC, Pac-12, SEC, Big 10, and Big 12. All the Power 5 champions get a locked-in position, and then I believe it was the top 4 would have a bye week. And then now you don't have the Pac-12 anymore. So now you leave 6 positions open for conference champions, or since there's only a Power 4 now, do you just cut that down to 4 and one of the non-Power 5? So I don't know if you call them Group of 5. I don't really know what you call them anymore because all of the terms have to change. So now it's going to be 4 conference champions, the Power 4 champions. They get the locked-in position, and then you've got the next highest-ranked conference champion that gets that 5th spot to lock in. And then you've got 5 at large. 7 at large. So you've got the 7 highest-ranked opponents. So now you've got a 5+7. I kind of wanted to get you guys' thoughts on this. I don't know if I've talked to all of you guys about it. I know Jared and Jeremy and I maybe. I don't think Hector and I have talked about the 12-team playoff yet. So Hector, I want to start off with you. How do you feel about the 12-team playoff, and do you like that they ended up changing this now to fit since there is no Pac-12?
It breaks my heart every time that the Pac-12 is dead, especially as
someone I agree.
That has watched the Pac-12 for so many years. Fun fact, I was born in USC Hospital. So like the Pac-12 has always been such a fun conference to me. Like I know living in Texas, I should be praising the Big 12, but Pac-12 was just a different breed. The fact that I'm willing to stay up till like 2 a.m. should tell you how much I love this conference. And it is heartbreaking to see it fall apart, but also on the plus side, it's really interesting to see how the Big 12 is now elevated. Now, you're adding Colorado, Utah, and the Arizona teams over there. Big 10, that's going to suck, regardless of who's traveling back over to the West Coast. But I think to me, it should just be 1 through 12, and then whoever's in that top 4 spots, they go in that bye week. And obviously, the only issue, the real conundrum that comes with that, obviously, is because there's the potential of having two SEC schools. The potential of having three SEC schools, depending on how loaded some of the college rankings. Like the thing is no matter what, and this is why like I didn't necessarily complain too much about what happened with the Final Four this past year, was because at the end of the day they're gonna make the decisions, but no one's ever gonna be happy with the solution. Because I mean,
Yeah.
if we do say the Power Four champions, right? The Power Four champions, but what happens if, let's say, University of Texas has a better record than the winner of the ACC? What happens when Miami has a better beat the ACC champion, and they have to play, and they're ranked eighth. So like, where do we draw the line? Like when do we stop complaining? And to be honest, it's never going to stop. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if we have a 12-team playoff. It doesn't matter if we have a 14 playoff. You're not going to have no one's going to be happy. No one's going to be happy unless we have some sort of March Madness freaking ultimate bracket system. And even then we'll still have people complain. So
Yeah,
there's no way we can make anybody happy with this. I think it should just be 1 through 12. Top 4 gets their buys regardless of what conference they're in. In hindsight, though, if you are a conference champion, you should be in the top 4. I don't think that no one's going to argue with that.
Yeah, I think there's very few scenarios where you wouldn't look at the ACC, SEC, Big 10, and Big 12. There's a very few times that you would look at those 4 champions and maybe have like a 3-loss champion in there or something. Now that's just not going to happen very often.
Basically, Pitt 2
so
years ago.
Yeah, and so I do like that you lock in your champions. And so if you're a champion, if you're a conference champion, and then you look at the little guys like the AAC or the MAC, or you like you go out to I'm trying to think of some other small conferences that have some teams. So for example, JMU goes undefeated, and they end up making it. I think that's maybe a bad example because they just lost Signetti, their coach. But let's just say that they go undefeated, win their conference, and they lock in that 4 spot.
So no matter what, it's a Sun Belt.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just I guess Sunbelt's a good one to bring up because I mean you've got some tough teams in there, but you've got some of those small teams that could go undefeated and lock their way into that top 4. Just because you might have a 2-loss champion that ends up getting up into the top 5, but they don't lock into that 4th spot because of that. So you've got some scenarios where you open it up. I like 12 teams because it adds parity. And then I also see where Kevin Wilson says, does a 12-team playoff make the regular season irrelevant? I don't think that's the case. Yeah.
Can I answer this? I don't think it's irrelevant because at the end of the day, how you perform because if you have a good record, you're going to be in your conference championship game.
Right.
Like, let's not pretend that I hate that we're like, oh, then the games don't matter. No, every single game matters. That's the reason why you're ranked where you're ranked.
I think that early season loss doesn't matter as much now. Last year when LSU lost to FSU, that doesn't matter as much now because you can afford to have 2 losses. You can.
Well, let's talk about the real one that really caused a lot of conflict, which was that UT Alabama game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That changed everything.
That changed everything.
That kept FSU out. That put Texas in. It kept Alabama in. There's
the game that kept on giving, boys.
Yeah, I mean it kept on giving, but it also took away. What was given was also taken away.
Listen, let's be honest here. We would have had more to complain about, and this is something I think me and Matt talked about in the show. This is something that would have been more complained about if FSU went and got absolutely mollywopped. Everyone would be complaining like this isn't real college football because they're not even like FSU's record was a farce. They needed to break Miami's backup quarterback's arm to beat Miami, and we didn't deserve to win that game by any stretch. They were losing by 16 when Jordan Travis got injured. They almost lost to Boston College, who might have been the worst college football team I've ever watched live in my life. There were multiple games this season where they should have lost and they just snuck it out. And this isn't one of those things where they're the team of destiny. They just find ways to win. No, 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 no. They somehow fall ass backwards into a win. This Florida State team had 3 good players, a bunch of good, okay players, and a bunch of average players. And Mike Norvell deserved all the accolades for his coaching, but if anything, Georgia deserved that 4th seed behind Alabama. That was it. There's no. I don't want to hear anything about FSU anymore. I've wanted to shoot this argument with about 15 rounds of buckshot. I'm done with it.
I was on the side where I can understand fighting for FSU. The only correct way to have fixed the system last year would have been the committee saying 6 teams are allowed in. Yes. That's where I stood, because I think you're a little biased against FSU being an ACC
it's
Miami
more or
boy.
less how if they put up a fight against Georgia, I'm like, yeah, fine.
I hated that. Like the fact that
everyone opted out.
Yeah, but that's on them. I don't give a shit. Like, if you wanted to prove that you deserved a shot,
I agree. That's the mentality that should have come out.
Mercenary mentality. Half their roster was transfers.
That's the mentality that should have come out, but that's not what happened.
And here, I'll just segue over to the next thing. But like, for the rest of the bowl games now, because now you have a 12-team playoff. Now those games. Essentially, the NCAA the FBS have now told you those games matter more.
Yeah.
Like now those other bowl games, the Salute Service Bowl. You know, those kind of random bowls that we have before we get even to the New Year's Eve bowls, the New Year's bowls, all those bowls that we get excited about watching. Like, you know, there's going to be a lot of guys that start opting out, because now it is going to be where those bowl games don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
There's going to be one of those guys that maybe like, look, man, I got to raise as much stock as I can come draft day. Or those guys like, hey, man, I already know I'm a 3rd-round pick. I don't need to prove anything else at this point. Like, I'm not going to raise my stock anymore. So I think that, like, adding this 12-team playoff, it does take a little bit of detriment to those lower bowls, if you will. Now, there's still going to be those teams. There's still going to be those teams that are going to be like, you know, those Sun Belt teams, like, oh man, we don't come here very often. Like, let's take, you know, we're going to go all out for this. But we're talking about the guys that think that they're better than this, and unfortunately, those are the guys that you didn't do enough in the regular season to get you into that 12-team playoff.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, Jeremy, I'll kick it over to you on that note. I mean, do you think that the rest of those bowl games, you talk about like maybe like the Cheez-It Bowl or the Pop-Tarts Bowl? Personally, if you ask me, the Pop-Tarts Bowl, with as amazing as they made that bowl game, that should be one of the playoff games. Just putting that out there. But these bowl games that are little bowl games that you still had some players. We got to the age now where it's just you opt out because you're not
ready for the draft, or
I'm not even. I don't even really know why. I guess because you're not getting money. I don't know. I can't tell you the exact reason, because there's not just one blanket reason. But you know, with all of these other little bowl games, we're already to the age of opt-outs. Does it make those other bowl games that aren't a playoff? Does it make it that much less significant now? Because like what Hector said, I agree with him. Like, you're not in the playoffs, so what do you have to play for?
Exactly. I mean, I can tell you probably one thing. It's just they probably don't get enough Pop-Tarts in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. But, I mean, looking at the situation, you get these guys to where, like for Florida State, for example, I'm not trying to bring this topic back up here. Yeah, they had opt-outs, which was majority of the team in the situation. But still, you get in these situations to where you could potentially make yourself a little bit better looking into the draft, or you can make yourself a little bit not so good looking into the draft. But looking at this overall aspect for these other bowl games, I mean, to me, they can get a little irrelevant, but at the same time, the way I look at it, this could definitely boost your look ats, just because you think that a lot of these other big name cats that they opted out and they don't want to play, then maybe this could be my moment and opportunity to get myself up there a little bit higher on the list. Just like literally Florida State was a good example for all those people that hopped out. But I mean, outside of this, Josh, looking at all these other little bowl games, to me, I'm not gonna lie with you guys. Like, I'll watch a few of these bowl games, but to me, they just become a little bit irrelevant just because of how high you see one team run up a scoreboard here, and then all of a sudden it just completely gets stupid at the time. I don't necessarily know if it's just because all the players opt out, which is probably the main reason, but or if these teams just have that time off and then all of a sudden they just shit the bed. But looking at it, I think they're kind of irrelevant, but looking into the playoff picture, I think it's better to have the 12 person for the playoff. And Hector, you kind of said it the best a little bit for having each of these teams get that in the first place, get that first round. But I really don't think those other little necessary bowl games are relevant even to me, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Jared, I kind of want to ask you and kind of go over to Notre Dame. Because of this 5+7 playoff, do you think this kind of pushes Notre Dame to join a conference? Because now they have no way of locking themselves in, and they also don't have a bye week. And so does that maybe force Notre Dame to say, hey, maybe if we want to get locked into the playoffs, we have a much better chance if we can win a conference championship? Does that kind of shove them to the Big Ten, Big 12 even, kind of out there, or ACC?
Well, I mean, bias aside from the fact that I despise Notre Dame for obvious reasons, say hi to the Uncle Ed jersey behind me. That being said, no, this is the comeuppance. Like, for years they've been able to pick their own schedule. Now they actually have to possibly commit to they want to actually not like get screwed and have to play I'll give you a scenario, right? Let's say next year North Carolina or Clemson or Miami wins the ACC. The second best team out of those has to play Notre Dame in like the 5 versus whatever it is, like the 6 versus 9 game or whatever the hell it would be, right? And Notre Dame catches a bad beat. They fumble a ball, a kickoff return for a touchdown, but they went undefeated. But they lose to like a 3-loss team because they didn't select a conference. They didn't commit to a conference. So it's kind of, I guess, football karma at this point because they pick their schedule for the last 6 generations, and now college football is like, hey, we're calling your bluff. Either commit or take the gamble. We don't care. But now you're not going to be able to skate into the playoffs playing UConn, Georgia Tech, and occasionally one Big Ten team. So it's
you can make it to the playoffs.
It could be NCAA for this.
The pressure is on for Notre Dame.
Yeah,
the pressure is on for Notre Dame because now you got to make your schedule the hardest schedule humanly possible because you got to prove that you beat the best team in SEC. And I'm not even saying play Vanderbilt. I'm saying you got to play either Georgia or Alabama. You gotta go pick a team from the Big 12. Either you go get Colorado or you get Utah. You have to go up against the best of the best in each conference to prove your point whether you belong in that 12 team playoff. Because if you're not going to commit to a conference and you don't perform in that conference, then you're out regardless. But at the end of the day, if you're going to still be having this independent status, you have to have the gauntlet of schedules in order to prove you're worthy of going into that 12-team playoff.
Yeah, I personally think, like, if you go back to this past season with LSU being 9-3, I think a 9-3 LSU team makes it into the playoffs before a 10-2 Notre Dame. Unless that 10-2 is a very tough schedule. Which this last year I will give them a little bit of props because they had a tough schedule. They went against some very tough teams. You can throw USC in there. They went against Ohio State. And who else was there? I know that there was another big game that they had. I would say NC State was a tough one in the beginning of the season, even though NC State kind of fell off. Louisville was a tough game. They ended up losing that one, but still they had some tough teams in there. So I will give them that. But yeah, I totally think this is kind of pressuring them to join a conference. And I heard this thrown out there. The Big 12, I think, has done the best job with all of this conference realignment, whatever you want to call it. They have done the best job with making sure and getting on top of everything and bringing everybody in because they lose their 2 top dogs, but they go and chase after a bunch of other very good contenders. Not any top dogs that are just the pick of the litter, but they went after some good ones. So if the Big 12 were to get some money and be able to throw that money over at Notre Dame, does that not make the Big 12 look mighty spicy at that point?
I think that's the appeal for them, because then they don't have to go into, like, they go to the ACC, right? And
I think the ACC is dying.
I think it is. I think
if you're Notre Dame, you want to go to the ACC.
You have two options. You don't go to the SEC.
I think the Big 10 and ACC are the two most likely.
I think it's Big 12 and ACC. I think the Big 10 is too obvious, and I think they are really, if they're going to go to the Big 10, they have to really hope that Ohio State, Michigan and Wisconsin and Penn State start to kind of even keel out. The only problem is the ACC. There's a lot of teams in that conference that are either the right coach away, the right recruit away. It's like they're a piece missing. It's that one conference where they're either going to die or excel. We don't know what's going to happen. Like, I won't even throw Florida State got their guy. Norvell is the guy for Florida State. Clemson, I mean, if Dabo comes to the 21st century, we might have a different conversation. And then with Miami, as much as he's a meme half the time, Cristobal has put together one of the best back-to-back recruiting classes in school history since like Larry Coker days. So that being said, like, there's a lot of upside. Even like North Carolina State's had a top 10 defense in college football like 3 times out of the last 10 years. That never happens for a North Carolina State team. It's a basketball school. And North Carolina football under Mac Brown has been electric. So there's a lot of good coming out of the ACC. So Notre Dame's got to be smart here, because do they want to go to a Big Ten team that is the king of 8-win teams? That is an 8-win conference. There's like 7 teams that could rack up 8 wins like that. That's a hard gauntlet schedule to play. Or do you want to go to like a lot of boom or bust teams like the ACC? Or do you want to just get thumped by 4 teams in the Big Ten? It's a weird. They're in a weird spot now.
Yeah,
there's 3 options. None of them are fun.
I still favor the Big Ten. I think that would be the most fun to watch, just because you think Notre Dame, Michigan, Notre Dame, USC still stays alive, and then you've also got Notre Dame against Ohio State that you see several times now. Notre Dame, Penn State. There's a ton.
UCLA.
Wisconsin, UCLA. So I mean, there's a ton of them. So personally, that's my pick. That's where I want them to land.
I was saying more from my perspective, what's best for them if they want to continue this. Okay, we're not going to kill ourselves in the regular season, but we still want to be eligible for a decent bowl or a decent spot in the playoff.
I think the commissioner and the ACC has been a big issue. That's just been.
He favors 3 teams, and then that's why the rest of them suffer.
I will say though, the one thing you would take from the Big 12, I think that Notre Dame, maybe it's still a challenging conference. I don't want to say that it's easy or not, but definitely maybe ideal for them. But you also have the marketability because you have Coach Prime over there at Colorado.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then you're going to have that challenge because Utah. You're going to have to face Utah. Utah is going to be a dog of a team. I respect Utah to this day now. And there's some sneaky good teams, man. There's teams that are building their credibility because now they're part of the Big 12. But I think if you want your for sure lock to guarantee yourself in that Big 12 playoff, I know that's confusing as I'm mentioning Big 12 conference, but that 12-team playoff is going to the ACC.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's an endless amount of possibilities for them. I do think joining a conference is what's best for them if they want to be in the playoffs more often and have a better option or a better way to the playoffs, a better path to the playoffs. But guys, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. One last thing before we close out. EA Sports College Football 25 was officially announced that it's coming back. This was big news for us. For anyone who is a college football fan, if you played video games too, you know how much it hurt to see this video game go away. And it's finally coming back, so we're excited about that. But some more, they officially announced it that they did work it out with NIL. So any player that opts into having their name, image, and likeness into this game, they will get paid $600 per year. This is going to be an annual fee that's given to them, plus a free game. So me personally, I'll take the free game. You can keep your $600. Just give me the game every year.
That's
speak for yourself.
Tattoos, man.
Let's take the money.
that's all I need.
College players love their tattoos.
Shit, I'll take it for a car payment. Goddamn.
bro. Let's face it. No offense to Madden, and here's the thing though. I'm skeptic because I mean, how EA has been doing with Madden recently over the years, it's not a great sign where how this college football game is. But regardless of that, NCAA football was probably my favorite game to play
Oh yeah.
because the thing was
Definitely.
no one has the same dynasty. Every dynasty is different.
Yeah.
Nothing is ever the same. The recruits are different. All those things. It's just so many. Just the dynasty alone. I'm not even talking about road to glory. Uh, Hopefully they fix the coach because the coach like whenever I remember when I was playing road to glory and I was playing quarterback, the coach loved to play a screen pass when it's like 3rd and 70. So like
Is he Brian Johnson?
as long as they fix that glitch, we'll be fine. But I mean but the awesome part was just whether you're trying to build a crappy football team or you're creating your own football team, it was like not everybody had the same dynasty. There was nobody that could say that their dynasty was similar to anyone else's because at the end of the day, they were all completely different. It was awesome to see how that game alone was just so different. Like I still to this day I have my PS3 and I still have my copy of NCAA 2014 because of how fun and I still have fun playing that game. There's a lot of glitches. Let's not say that game's perfect, but it's still like to me I have the most fun playing that game and I don't get bored of it. I'll every single save that I have has been a fun one, whether I'm building a coach's career or trying to take Georgia State to the top of college football. It's always been fun. There's no way I have not been playing
Yeah.
college football, and this is like why everyone's so excited about finally we're gonna have college football back in the video games world because of just the creativity that you get from it. Now it's up to EA though. It is up to EA how this game is gonna look.
If it
Because
ain't broke, don't fix it. And you know what we loved. You know that what you did to improve the NCAA games was great. You fixed a lot of things with Road to Glory and added things in there, like being able to start off in high school. That was amazing. That was so much fun. So you added some cool features. You did a lot of great things. Don't try to add too much. One thing that I really hope they don't do, I hate the Madden, like what is the your own dynasty, like your own player. It's like a Road to Glory type thing, whatever they call it in Madden. I don't like it. Is that what it's called? Superstar? Yeah, I mean,
Superstar.
I don't like it. I don't like the movie aspect to it. Leave that out of it. I just want to play the
I
game.
mean, it was fun when they first introduced it in Madden 20, but then like the problem is they try to make it too much like 2K. It's not 2K.
Well, yeah, and 2K was the first one to do that. That was cool, whatever. I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it. I'm not playing a campaign mode in Call of Duty. I'm playing NCAA football.
Let's be honest. FIFA, well now it's EA Sports FC, but they're the ones that started it with the journey.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they started the
See, I don't think I ever did that in FIFA. I think I always just either played like season modes or like the dynasty mode and stuff like that over on FIFA.
I don't blame you. I did that.
Josh, that guy who goes straight to the freaking online mode in the first-person shooter.
Yeah. No, honestly, first-person shooter, I just play against bots. That's about it.
I'd rather much play career mode or franchise mode over any of the journey or whatever it was for Madden. But
yeah. I mean, honestly though, with this game, I just hope they bring it back the way it was. Release date is supposed to be July 2024, so it's coming out very soon. It's just around the corner. Very excited.
I get that Indiana Jones and the Star Wars Battlefront retro pack. Oh, I'm done. It's over.
My summer.
I might just buy a console.
My summer is taken away. I mean, so one thing for us at Belly Up, we're planning to have an online dynasty going on NCAA, or I guess EA Sports College Football whenever it comes out. Yes, so make sure to stay tuned because we're going to try to work something out there. I need our streamers to help me out, so because I have no idea how to do that stuff. I'm sure I can figure it out, but we're definitely going to have to get into it, guys. I'm really excited for it. This is the all-time best game that was ever made, so I just hope they don't mess it up. I'm right there with you, Hector. I just feel like they're going to do something. So I don't know. I'm skeptical. But
EA is gonna do the whatever is gonna be the ultimate team, where I mean, they tried to do it. I believe they did it in 2014. I think that was an option where you could
That
do
was
like,
the first year they attempted Ultimate Team was
yeah, it
2014.
was like Ultimate Team. Like as get rid of. I know you can't get rid of it. It's gonna be a feature
That's
that
their
they're gonna.
cash cow, bro.
That's their cash cow now. Is the microtransactions. But
Yeah.
if they can do a Heisman mode where they have where you can play careers of of every
Bo
Heisman
I
that
liked
Jackson.
I liked that one a lot.
Yeah.
Was
that
that?
was one
I
of my
think
favorite things to do.
yeah, I think that was one of my favorites. Being able to do the Heisman mode and all that, and then yeah, I mean, I ultimately just being able to create yourself and put yourself in the video game. Like that's why it never made any sense to me
Being
why
able
the
to create a
college students didn't want to be in the video game. Like, oh, you have to pay me. You don't have to pay me. I'll pay you to put me in the game. Like that. That's how I
For
feel.
real.
But yeah, I
I
mean,
will
it's
say though, if they do have if they bring back Create a School.
yeah,
Hopefully
please.
it's not. I have to like go on their website and create my school, create its history, blah blah
I
blah.
hated that
I
shit. Back
I
then.
liked
was-
that because it was so much more in depth and it was easier to do on the computer than it was on the
I
console.
will
Way
say,
too much stuff on the console.
You're absolutely right about that. But like, there's some things you can pull from 2K, which is obviously now that you can upload logos
Yeah,
on from 2K and all that.
that's
But
necessary. Absolutely
that needs to
necessary.
be added. I need to be able to build my school up. Like I can't just have the same rinky-dinky stadium for a while. Like I gotta eventually
You
make
gotta
it
be
the
able
big
to go
house.
like MLB ballpark creator from the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But guys, very excited. So I mean that we're gonna leave it with that. But before we head out of here, we got to go around the horn, get everybody where can we find your stuff? Who are you? Where can we find your stuff? Jared, let's start off with you, man.
You can find me and the dynamic duo of Chris and Matt at All Things Corner Booth Pod, anywhere you find your podcast, and on YouTube. And we go live every Thursday on Belly Up's YouTube, the Corner Booth Instagram, Belly Up's Facebook, and Corner Booth's Twitter or X, whatever the hell they want to call it now. That being said, every Thursday we go live, regardless of what time of year it is. We start doing Tuesday, Monday / episodes. Starting, I believe, March 9th is our first Tuesday episode. Season 11 kicks off with March 6th. We do our March Madness breakdown with Subi from Theater and College Hoops. And we do our draft break. We do our free agency breakdown with DJ Stewart. It's going to be a good time. That being said, we're in the middle of our offseason shenanigans where today Chris was put in the penalty box 5 times for bingo. And he talked about basically breaking into a mall at 11 o'clock at night and getting told there was canines and told to leave. So yeah, that's how our shows go. So stop in every Thursday from 7 to 8:30 Eastern time. It's a good time.
Awesome. And Hector, where can we find insert name FC?
Instagram, X, insert name FC. You can find us on TikTok at insert.name.fc. I've been really trying to step my game up with these reels and TikTok videos. Hopefully, everybody's appreciated that. But new episodes every Friday. There's always going to be a new episode that's going to drop. This episode is going to be a little bit special just because of the fact that Edward, my co-host, is going to be taking a hiatus. He just needs to take a break from the show, so it is going to be a while until you see Edward back on the show. So we really wanted to do a really good one. Plus, it is our MLS kickoff episode. MLS is back this weekend. Obviously, Inter Miami won yesterday 2-0 against Real Salt Lake. But new episodes every Friday. So always check it out. Always can find some content from us over there at Insert Name FC.
Absolutely.
Well, Josh?
I
But
think his mic picked out.
yeah, I was gonna say.
Jeremy,
Yeah, somehow
where can we find
it muted me. Somehow
Yeah, I
it
was
muted me.
like-
But
It was
yeah,
like, what the heck?
I was teasing you. I said, Jeremy, how about you? Unless you wanted me to take over.
I mean, hey, if you want me to do the rundown, I can definitely do the rundown. Obviously, you can find myself and Josh on Rising to the Occasion on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the whole 9 yards. On anything on social media, just look up Rising to the Occasion, and obviously, you can find us along other streaming platforms like Apple, Spotify, and I know, Josh, you said that we're trying to get in the works of trying to get one other social media, but what social media are we trying to get to again? Was it Flow?
That's no, nothing yet. So
Oh, I thought
that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
we do have some back end things trying to get into the works and everything. But
that's true.
for now you can find everything. You can find everything over at rising2.com, risingto.com, and always find us here on Belly Up Sports. We thank everybody for tuning in. Again, please keep on showing your support. Guys, thank you all so much for joining me on this fine, dappered up Belly Up After Dark. And to all of our audience, we will see you all.
Hawaiian shirts next time. We're going for it.
We'll see y'all
Florida
next time.
man, we're here.